We're now joined in the studio by Liberal MP Jason Falinski. We also have the Shadow Minister for Housing and Homelessness, Labor Party MP Jason Clare. Thank you. So it seems to be the Jason and Jason show.
Absolutely, I agree with Jason.
Yeah. We were saying this is the Triple J show. Joe? Yes. Jason Clare, if I could start with you. It does seem that Bridget McKenzie has become almost an albatross around the Prime Minister's neck. Would you say that that's the case? It's time for her to go. There is talk that she may be leaving just before Parliament resumes.
Well, she should have been sacked 3 weeks ago. That's when the Audit Office report came out. The Prime Minister's got all the information he needs to act. There are more smoking guns here than a Clint Eastwood movie. You've got the Audit Office report. You've got that colour-coded spreadsheet leaked from the Minister's office that proved they were allocating money to marginal seats, not the best projects. Now you've got this leaked email that shows that the Prime Minister's office were pulling the strings behind the scenes. Any other Prime Minister would have sacked Bridget McKenzie by now. Think about this. Bronwyn Bishop got sacked for a $5,000 helicopter ride. This is $100 million of taxpayers' money, and the Prime Minister still hasn't acted. He's holding the Australian people in contempt. He should sack her now.
But it's not up to the Prime Minister to sack Bridget McKenzie, is it? I mean, she is part of the Nationals Party, so...
He's the Prime Minister of Australia. She's part of the Cabinet. You know, he can sack her today. He should have sacked her 3 weeks ago. The fact that it's taken so long shows a lack of leadership, or the fact that he's worried that if he sacks her, who do you have to sack next? Who else was involved in this, you know, in this event, which is a misuse of taxpayers' money?
Jason Falinski, of course, Parliament returns on Tuesday. Are you confident that Bridget McKenzie will remain in her position by then? Well,
look, I can't say, because at the moment the whole thing is under review by Phil Gagens, who's the head of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. He's presenting his report sometime this weekend. I've seen reports that it will be potentially as soon as today. The Prime Minister will then announce the outcome of that review, and we'll have to go from there. But yeah, we just wait and see.
It does seem as though more information comes out each day, and at the moment there's also some unanswered questions about Scott Morrison's involvement in this, and he answered questions about that at the National Press Club this week, saying that basically his role was only to relay representations it had received. Yep. Is that right?
Well, I'm not in the Prime Minister's office, so I don't know, but my experience has been that that would be roughly what occurs, so that you would have members of Parliament who are representing their community and community groups within their community going to the Prime Minister's office and saying, look, this community group really needs funding for female change rooms or something of that particular nature. And the Prime Minister's office would convey that request to the relevant minister, in this case,
But it does seem as though the details of this case are not ordinary, are not as they usually are. And according to both ABC, sources that the ABC's spoken to, and also Network 10, the Prime Minister's sport advisor, Chris Daffy, liaised directly with Senator McKenzie's office regarding the program. Do you know if there were directions
that's unusual. Well,
of where this funding should go?
Well, I don't know is the answer. I haven't seen any evidence or an allegation of that nature.
If we do see evidence, what should happen then?
Well, then there would need to be a review about what the nature of that was occurring. But, you know, we have in this country a system where we elect representatives to make decisions. These programs are certainly advice is put forward to ministers that the bureaucracy makes. They have their decision criteria. We've had, of course, that example of where the roller derby rink rated 92, but the women's change rooms rated 42. And as elected representatives, it's kind of our job to put a common sense filter over that and say, actually, we need more women encouraged into sport.
But Sports Australia did those rankings, so did they not use common sense?
Well, it would seem at this point in time that they were using guidelines and a particular formula. And yes, sometimes formula spits out what is a technical answer, but that any human being looking at it would say, well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't mean that everything is wrong. It just means that occasionally every formula spits out something.
I feel sorry for the mums and dads that run different sporting clubs and have put together these submissions. They thought it was all legit and fair, and then they find out that money's been allocated not to the one that was ranked the highest, but to the ones that go to the marginal seat. They didn't realise the game was rigged. You know, Jason, you talk about, and the Prime Minister's talked about, girls having to change behind the sheds, but the fact is there's lots of applications for girls' change rooms that didn't get funded, and then you've got $500,000 to the Mossman Rowers Club for an extension of a pier. You know, you're talking about girls having to cover up your own misdeeds. That's the problem here. Money should have been given to the best applications. You talk about everything's eligible.
So
I'm eligible to play for Australia in the next test against South Africa, but you shouldn't pick me because I'm not the best. You should have allocated the money to the ones that, well, I can tell you what, I was a pretty good opener for Cabramatta, but don't pick me for Australia. Okay. Give the money to the ones that need it the most.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the Mossman Rowers Club, if they need a new peer, can pay for it.
And that's not an unfair... Well, they can't. They can't. That's a club that's gone, you know, under 3 times, and they do a lot of great work in the community.
Think about the Royal Adelaide Golf Club. It costs about 20 grand to join. I don't think they needed taxpayers' money for the solar panels, right?
Well, hang on. Why not? I mean, are we against solar panels now?
Rank as high as others.
So everyone who ranked high. So we should just take the advice of the bureaucracy, or Sports Australia in this particular instance. So we should have funded the roller derby rink over the women's change room.
Well,
I mean,
the problem is you didn't fund women's change.
But we did. There were a lot of women's change rooms that we funded that would not have been funded if we just listened to the advice that we got from Sports Australia.
And a lot of them were rejected because they weren't in the right seat to win.
No, that's not true. And in fact, and can I make this point, because this is a very important point. Before the Minister's office intervened, funding to Labor electorates or electorates held by Labor members was at 26%. After she intervened, it went to 36% because we wanted to ensure that there was a spread, or she wanted to ensure that there was a spread of the program. You can't... I mean, the Labor Party can't come in here and say...
Smoking gun. More evidence out of the Liberal Party mouth that there was intervention for political purposes.
Is this a case, Jason Clare, that perhaps the guidelines are not strong enough? Is that basically
Well, you know, I tell you what, it's a case for an ICAC. The only way, you know, if this minister doesn't get sacked...
So we've seen in New South Wales...
you don't want an ICAC?
No, I don't want an ICAC. We've seen in New South Wales the injustice that ICACs
for the rorting of $100 million
who are innocent over and over
again. Then when
again.
does a minister ever get sacked? You know, if Bridget McKenzie doesn't go, then it's a message to every other minister in your government that you can get away with whatever you want. The only way we're going to stop this is with an ICAC.
But Jason Clare, there is that investigation being carried out, so should we not reserve judgment until we get the results
That's
of that?
an investigation into whether the minister had a conflict of interest in not declaring that she was a member of a club. This is bigger than that. You know, this is the rorting of $100 million of taxpayers' money.
Sorry, your premise is
smoking guns as far as the eye can see. And
sorry, that's wrong.
Any Prime Minister before this Prime Minister would have sacked Bridget McKenzie by now. I can't understand what he's waiting for unless he's worried about evidence coming out that his office is involved in pulling the strings in all of this.
Jason Falinski, is the Liberal Party being sullied by the internal conflicts of the National Party?
No, I don't think that at all. I mean, we're having a discussion about a program, how it was administered. Jason's obviously trying to turn that into something bigger. That's his job to do that. But the whole idea that this somehow would justify more show trials, as we see in New South Wales, and a commission that failed to notice the rorting going on under the Carr-Keneally government and Eddie Obeid, and that investigation only started after they left office, and the number of people who have been injured and had their lives destroyed by the Independent Commission Against Corruption in New South Wales. I cannot, and I'm not saying this politically, I'm saying this as a human being, that we want to see more justice in the world. I can't understand people like Jason, who I know cares about justice, who wants to impose on the Australian people a commission that has done so much damage to justice.
I'm not saying that at all.
And injustice to all sorts of people.
I am not saying that at all. Your government has said you're going to introduce an ICAC, and it's been delayed now for 2 years.
An integrity commission, which is...
Well, it's the same thing.
But you guys want public hearings. You guys want to replicate the New South Wales ICAC, which has just done so much damage.
All we want you to do, Jason, is act. This country is screaming out for leadership here. Real leaders turn up in a crisis. We've got 3 on our doorstep at the moment. You've got the coronavirus, you've got bushfires on the doorstep of Canberra again, and you've got the stench of corruption with this scandal as well. The Prime Minister was too slow to act on the bushfires, but finally acted. He's too slow to act here too. He should have sacked Bridget McKenzie 3 weeks ago.
I'm afraid we've run out of time. Jason Clare, Jason Falinski,
really?
thank you so much for coming in this morning. It goes quickly, doesn't it? Thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.